So we're going to go through number 2 together. I'm going to skip over number 4 when we get to it because that's going to be your homework question. So we're just going to go through 2, 3, and 5. So number 1, our statement is given to us and our reason for it is given. So on the right side here, all of our reasons. It's how we justify what we're doing with the math. So going from 1 to 2, I asked myself, what changed? Well, it looks like going from here, they subtracted 2 on both sides of the equation. And the property that allows us to do that is called the subtraction property of equality. And I just put POE because I don't want to write out property of equality. You're welcome to write all that out, but if you put POE, I know what you're talking about. Then let's go from 2 to 3 and ask ourselves what changed. Well, if I was solving this equation, we would be multiplying both sides by -6, multiply by -6, and that's what gives us this A equals -18. The property that allows us to do that is the multiplication property of equality. Okay. So that's all we have to do for number 2. So we can move down to number 3. This one has a little bit more steps. Looking at number 1, that's our given. The first step is always what's given to us, and sometimes when we have other proofs, we'll have more than one given provided, but for algebraic proofs, we're just starting with 1. So what changed from 1 to 2? Well, it looks like they distributed that -9 to each piece, each term inside the parentheses, so that's distribution or distributive property. There's distributive property. Then for the next step, from 2 to 3, they subtracted 27 from both sides. So that's the subtraction property of equality. And if you didn't hear me say this in class, I know a lot of times we want to abbreviate things, and that's okay, but please make sure the way you abbreviate it, I can tell what you're saying. If you just write sub for subtraction, I don't know if you're talking about subtraction property of equality or substitution. So please at least write subtract property of equality so that I can tell what it is. Then in our final step, how do we get x equals -2? Well, we divided both sides by -18, divide by -18, and that is the division property of equality. All right, so I'm going to skip number 4 because you're going to do that on your own for your homework. And then number 5, we have this. So our first step is given, and let's look what they do in the second step. Looks like they've distributed that 7 as well as distributed that 6. So you can only, when you have a proof like this, we can only apply one property in each step. It's okay that they changed both of these because they're both using the distributive property. So we can write distribute or distributive property. Okay. And then let's look from 2 to 3. What changes? Well, it looks like they took -7x plus 14x and made that -3x. So that's combining like terms. We're going to see it more commonly written as simplify. Because we're not really applying a property of equality, we're just simplifying the equation. From here, it looks like we subtracted 12x from both sides. And that's what gives us our next step. And subtraction property of equality lets us do that. From here, we add 14 to both sides. So that's addition property of equality. And I would like for you to at least write POE. Don't just write addition, because it's not just addition. We're not just adding something. We're adding something to both sides of the equation. And we can only do that by using the property of equality. That is addition. Our final step, they divided both sides by -15. And that's division property of equality. Whatever you divide on the left side, you can divide on the right side. All right, hope you guys have a great night.